Ow, my head. Wait a minute. Where am I? How long have I been out? Did I miss Kong vs. Godzilla?
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Come on, wakey, wakey, likes to breaky.
No, we're not doing this.
Wait, doing what?
You know exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, look at yourself.
Huh? Oh yeah, I haven't been working out lately, so I've lost some of my studly physique. Real shame.
I'm talking about the terrible cosplay. We're not channel awesome. Besides, I know how to keyframe now.
You are no fun. You know that?
Well, excuse me if I'm a little on edge right now from being kidnapped. What do you want from me?
Well, you do have a burrito in your fridge that is just calling out to me. Oh, you mean why did I tie you up? I did it for your welfare.
Pretty sure not being knocked out would have benefited my welfare more.
Your reclamation, then! As in, you can reclaim the reputation you lost by not giving my episode its due screen time.
Oh, come on, that's what this is about? I didn't talk about one video you were in and you kidnapped me? That's petty even for you, Wade.
That, among other things. Roll the clip! Did somebody say...
Nope. Not this time, buddy. Oh, that. I somehow forgot about that.
Oh, and they call me a heartless killer. You don't even remember someone you Thanos away. I mean, how did you even do that without raisening up like Grimace's arm?
Firstly, in my defense, it was more like a one-off gag. And second, it was a knockoff from Amazon, all right?
Cripes, you really can get anything online these days.
How are you alive anyway?
Continuity stone. Cures what ails ya.
Figures. Look, Deadpool, Wade, I'm sure we can come to a reasonable agreement here. A lot of people have been requesting my Season 7 video, and I'd like to eventually talk about something that isn't Death Battle for once.
See, that's the thing with Death Battle. Once you start making DB content, it is very difficult to stop. Trust me. I tried. And if you still want to plead the fifth, I've got a certain green-skinned, snazzy suit-wearing fella on speed dial. And remember, he killed me.
Okay, fine. I'll do whatever you say.
Then let's talk about Deadpool versus the Mask.
If you insist. Death Battle has an abundance of admirable qualities to it.
Wait, are you still talking to me, or?
Among those is its diversity.
Oh, I'm being ignored.
No, I don't mean diversity as in all the different franchises used. Lord knows that's been a problem recently. I'm talking about how each episode feels like its own self-contained bubble of creativity. Unlike most shows that are bound to a basic format and structure, every Death Battle has something to separate itself from others. With so many unique characters that have different backgrounds, animation quirks, fighting styles, and story tropes, no two fights are supposed to feel the same. So when the next time on Death Battle message appears, we get excited because there's no telling what we're gonna get. Let's go! Comics? It could be a dramatic episode, a comedic episode, an exciting episode, a claustrophobic episode, a grand episode, and so on and so forth. But of all the episode tropes we've gotten, there's one that remains the most polarizing in the whole community, and that is the joke episode. You know the ones. Every season has at least one, except for Season 5. Yes, I know Batman vs. Black Panther is treated like a joke, but that doesn't count. There's a lot of debate surrounding what actually constitutes a joke episode, so for all intents and purposes, I'd like to give my own definition. A joke episode is not the same as a comedic one. Fights like Hercule vs. Dan and Wario vs. King Dedede can still be taken seriously from a debate perspective, despite using unserious characters and focusing more on comedy. Even using characters that aren't designed for combat isn't enough to make up a joke episode. Despite both using My Little Pony, Deadpool vs. Pinkie Pie and Raven vs. Twilight were clearly going for different tones. And even though Eggman vs. Wily has an unorthodox ending, I wouldn't count that one either. I'm talking about the ones that are so out there, so absurd on paper, that simply hearing the name by itself would make anyone even outside the Versus community raise an eyebrow. It could be episodes that feature real-life people, absurd mismatches, pure novelty, and straight-up shitposts. The episode we're discussing today manages to fall under all of those categories.
Wait. How does it fall into the first one?
I'm talking to you right now, aren't I?
What, like you haven't talked to imaginary people before?
Out of all the joke episodes we've seen, Deadpool vs. Mask is by far the most loved or hated in the bunch. There's hardly ever any in between, and as I discuss this episode, I think we'll slowly begin to understand more and more why that is.
On to last episode of
Death Battle!
First things first, we need to begin with some context, which in and of itself might be our first reason this episode has a bad rap, but we'll get to that. Say what you want about him, but there's no denying that Deadpool is the most prolific character to appear on Death Battle. Sure, some have returned, twice even, but to this day, Deadpool remains on top when it comes to the most appearances, even outside the ring. Ever since Deadpool vs. Deathstroke, the merc with the mouth has remained a thorn in Wizenboomstick's side, a cockroach that won't keel over, a leaky faucet that can't be turned off,
All right, we get it.
Even when he wasn't invited, he was always able to find new ways to invade and steal the spotlight. It got so bad that even audiences started to groan at the sight of him. Remember how I gave Thanos vs. Darkseid a 10? Well, admittedly, my opinion on it has gotten worse after more rewatches, partly because Wade kind of stole a lot of its thunder. The fact that it's the finale of the most innovative season of the show certainly doesn't help. And I doubt anyone was hoping this would be the final line of a fight between two galactic dictators.
So you watching any anime?
So what anime was she watching?
I tried getting her into Death Note, but she just said it looked like a lot of paperwork for her.
Well, at least you didn't tell her about the movie.
I know! Live action is never as good.
He even found his way into episodes he had no earthly business being a part of. It got out of control, but now that I have hindsight on my mind, I've realized that this move was actually brilliant. The beauty of Death Battle is that continuity isn't too important to the experience. Sure, we might get references to past calculations or running jokes, but for the most part, each episode is self-contained. But Deadpool vs. Mask is the only episode I can think of where you have to be aware of previous episodes to get the context of what's happening, with the exception of rematches. You have to be aware of Deadpool's history on the show to understand why he's fighting Mask of all characters. His shenanigans had simply gotten so unbearable that Wizenboomstick needed a surefire L for Wade to end their suffering once and for all, and it's understandable because we were shown how insufferable he'd been. Mask is a perfect opponent for other reasons, but we'll get to those soon enough. While this admittedly makes some episodes retroactively worse, I still believe that his appearances weren't that bad.
Oh my god, it's Deadpool with a gun!
Maybe if it was more short and to the point, like in Ghost Rider vs. Lobo, detractors could have tolerated it, but Wiz's instinctual reaction to punching the screen was only justified by Wade's last, more drawn-out cameo. It's a double-edged sword, I realize, using this much continuity and making other episodes suffer, but even then, it was still only a couple. Without the build-up to Deadpool vs. Mask, it wouldn't be nearly as unique, and the writing wouldn't have had as much payoff, leading to what I posit is possibly one of the funniest analysis segments this show has had. I know that for most of my Death Battle reviews, I spend a majority of my time on the fight while only briefly touching upon the analysis, but this episode warrants going a bit more in depth than usual. If I had to list what my favorite Death Battles are, purely going off of pre-analysis bits, I would include episodes like Goku vs. Superman, Ragnar vs. Old Bad Guy, Meta vs. Carolina, Mega Man Battle Royale, Wario vs. DDD, and Ganondorf vs. Dracula, to name a few.
Come on.
And Deadpool vs. Deathstroke.
Aha! Still got it!
But I didn't spend a crazy amount of time on those ones because my positives essentially boil down to 3 basic descriptors: funny, informative, and most important, respectful. So there's not much to say that I wouldn't have already said about a previous episode I liked. As I'm sure you've guessed by now, that's not the case here. With all the lore leading up to this one, including the campaign straight up saying "Let's kill Deadpool" and a track titled "Goodbye Jimmy Changa," Wizenboomstick weren't even trying to hide their true intentions.
And I'm honestly hurt by that. I mean, what have I ever done to them? Aside from liven up their boring analysis, deliver one of the best fights ever, and let Takahata 101 put Death Battle on his resume.
You also claimed you slept with Boomstick's mom, broke the laws of reality just to break Wiz's mind, and copped out with a birthday party for a season finale. Need I also bring up Thanos vs. Darkseid?
Nah, nobody's nerfed.
And just in case you're one of those people who skips the next time, our hosts make their plan clear as early as the opening logos.
You sure this is gonna work? This'll shut him up for good?
Trust me, it's the perfect plan.
Sometimes shows will interrupt their intro for no reason other than a joke. But here, it does a great job of preparing us for the insanity that is Deadpool vs. Mask. As is customary, Wiz and Boomstick introduce our combatants, but in order for their plan to work, they need Deadpool to be there. Their solution?
Such as Deadpool, Marvel's merc with a micropenis.
And the Mask, a total Chad who just oozes big dick energy.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that Liam Swan got his fingerprints all over this one. Thanks to his other episodes like Obi-Wan vs. Kakashi, Black Canary vs. Sindel, and most infamously Ben 10 vs. Green Lantern, he has garnered a reputation as Death Battle's resident meme connoisseur, whether it's being proficient in them or unintentionally inventing his own. Considering this fight is shitpost the episode, I can't think of anyone else more fitting to write this one.
Didn't we just see this before? Nah, this is a different one. Okay.
Moving on to the actual analyses, Deadpool may be prolific, but he's not the only character to have appeared more than once. Here is where returning fighters run into a bit of a trap. I have no issue with giving characters like Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel a second chance. My problem is when they come back too soon, thereby not having that much to add to the conversation we hadn't already discussed. Remember Goku vs. Superman 2? Not even a few months after that episode came out, and now we've got Goku causing universe-scaling shockwaves and casually tangling with gods. And then you have situations where the characters are treated more like practice fodder. How is it that over 5 years later, the writers ended up having less to say about Shadow? Two of the best examples to look to when it comes to doing a returning combatant justice are Ryu and Ganondorf. Not only had plenty of time passed, but thanks to the overhaul in rules and formatting, it felt like we were getting to see these characters in a completely new light. It also helps that there was plenty of room to improve upon from their previous outings, at least in terms of research. As for Deadpool, each of his episodes find a way to remain distinct from one another, and more or less the same ways I mentioned before, but with a twist. In Deadpool vs. Deathstroke, things are played straight for the most part. It just happens to have the novelty of a third party invading for the first time in the show's history. In Deadpool vs. Pinkie Pie, it acknowledges that the only new thing was his recent film, and chooses to focus more on his zany meta side as opposed to his combat skills. And in Deadpool vs. Mask, where do I begin? Remember how I said respect is one of the calling cards of a good death battle analysis? They basically take that idea and smash it with a flaming semi-truck to the face. We focused on his skills as a fighter and a rule breaker. Now we get to see why he's so good at annoying people. It seems like every month the internet finds a brand new trend to shove down our throats, with punchlines that generally garner groans as opposed to laughs.
Have you ever tried whole grain bread? It's far better for you.
This has been Deadpool for nearly a decade, and our hosts have officially hit their limit, going as far as to invent an equation specifically to figure out how dumb Deadpool is. In most circumstances, this would be seen as immature, but it is so damn funny here thanks to the context of Deadpool's shenanigans both on and off the show. One of the best moments is when they go over his feats only to intentionally downplay him.
And the average male running speed is about 9.4 kilometers per hour.
Hey, I was out running a goddamn airplane. Do you know how fast airplanes are? Jesus H. Christ almighty. Do some research for once, you frauds.
Seeing Wade get more and more frustrated as Wiz and Boomstick maintain their cheeky smiles is really cathartic, especially after his last invasions. He stole my man's punchline. That's just bad form right there. Even then, they still give Deadpool some credit with his actual feats, and it's even better seeing him interact with Wiz and Boomstick in their new hand-drawn iterations. The beauty of comic characters is that they can fit in basically any medium without feeling out of place, which is why we don't bat an eye whenever Deadpool goes from 3D to sprites to rubber hose to camp. It also helps each of his episodes feel more unique than they already were. I'll focus more on the animation later, but for now, I just want to say that when compared to the PNGs from before, the crew has a lot more versatility at their disposal for visually representing Wade.
And to anyone who thought they were being clever with all those light bulb body comments, you wish you had a figure like mine. Curves for days.
Here comes a new challenger!
Mask's analysis segment is just as good, and shares many of the previous segment's qualities. Considering Mask's number of genre switches that would make even Evil Dead blush, they did a great job using his comic panels and visual media in a versatile way. Jim Carrey and jabs at the 2005 movie are always welcome on this channel, but it's also fun seeing all the other characters showcased as a way of explaining Mask's greatest asset. While this isn't the first time a character with Toon Force has been used, this is the first time Wiz and Boomstick draw attention to and dissect it. While comic and anime characters are capable of almost anything, a Toon can basically do whatever the hell they want, because more often than not, comedy takes precedent over the story in their worlds. Mask just happens to come from a world where he can mercilessly kill the shit out of everyone, so long as it's funny. With how much they focused on Toon Force, it gives me hope that we'll get more characters just like him.
Like me?
Ah! Wait, why are you surprised? Didn't you bring her here to torture me?
Dude, she can bend logic to her will. I have zero control over what she does.
Ooh, what's with the lighting and the ropes? Are you guys playing a game?
Sure, we're playing house.
Why is he tied up?
Daring Do's house?
By the way, sorry about you getting punched in that episode.
No worries. I've had baths more dangerous than Boomstick. Where's the wise? Turns out you can't bake cupcakes just anywhere.
You know, I've actually found toaster baths to be quite relaxing. Say, now that you're here...
Wade, I swear.
Do you wanna...
You had better not.
Stick around?
Do I?
While the cameo was appreciated, it was more important to actually spend time on Mask normally, given this is his first time on the show. Same goes for Deadpool and, ironically, Mask himself. Deadpool's quip was inevitable, but brief.
The slubbiest, dorkiest loser this side of Deadpool.
Regenerating degenerates have feelings too, you know.
Plus, if it lasted too long, he would have learned too much about Mask and loses confidence going into the fight, which I promise is important for later. And if Mask had interrupted the show as well, he would have essentially just been Deadpool 2.0 and be a retread of what we'd already seen not 5 minutes ago. It worked with Pinkie because her personality is so much different from Wade's. Again, this will all be important later. When it comes to interruptions, I don't think any will ever be as appreciated as the Blue Apron call-out.
I've got a hunger for some.
I swear if you cut the commercial, I'll strangle you both with an actual blue apron.
By now, you've probably heard of Blue Apron.
Have you ever wanted to receive a vegetable in the mail? Then you need Blue Apron.
No need to thank me. I'm just doing my duty to make shilling not boring. Speaking of which, have either of you heard of this new mobile game that's sweeping the nation?
Moving on!
What's a mobile game?
Fine. I'll make like an average Death Battle watcher and skip the ads. Let's talk about what everyone comes to see, the fight.
It's like the characters are just there to beat the shit out of each other.
Now with our combatants set, it's time to talk about the part that you all inevitably skip to every time. I bet you even did it here too. Don't lie. The fight begins with a tracking shot of a tall skyscraper when suddenly we see Deadpool jumping out of a window trying to grab the mask. Not Mask the person, I mean the mask itself. You get it. I've mentioned this before in my season 6 review, but for as many things as that season got right, the fight setup started getting more and more weak, and people like to point to this one as an example. I want to make something very clear. I have absolutely no problem with throwing the audience right into the action at the very beginning. It's an effective way to immediately engage us. My problem is when fights cut right into the actual battle without showing or even explaining why they're fighting to begin with. But I'm fine with it here because the stuff we're skipping isn't necessary for the episode. We didn't need some 2-minute long prologue of Deadpool breaking in and taking the mask because that's not why we're here. Now, I'm not trying to call out other channels that do super elaborate setups, but they normally have the luxury of not being fixed to tight schedules, and as Wade said,
There's only enough funding for a few minutes of animation, so we're skipping that part.
all we really needed was an implied heist gone wrong, Deadpool being Deadpool, the mask ending up on a random civilian, and that's it. We can fill in any of the blanks ourselves should we so desire, but what's important is no interaction between our actual combatants was lost, which can't be said for other fights with this problem. As for their reasonings, Mask is an embodiment of chaos and cartoon violence. Obviously he's going to try and murder Wade. The comment about the budget, aside from being funny, also foreshadows upcoming shenanigans.
Ooh, one of my favorite things to foreshadow! Right up there with surprise parties and season arcs!
We then hear our fighters interact for the first time this episode. Another thing that would have been ruined had Mask interrupted Wiz and Boomstick earlier. Up to now, Takahata 101 has been on point as Deadpool to the surprise of no one. He's still memeing it up, but it's toned down significantly in my opinion from previous appearances, and serves an important purpose for later. Then we hear Mask's first line.
Okay.
Mask is voiced by Kyle Iggy, and if you've seen Free For All, you should know by now why I'm a big fan of this guy. For those who don't, he is the voice actor of the chattiest, soupiest villain to teleport behind you, Giovanni Potage!
Anyone can become a villain for the low price of $49.99 a month.
So there's no skill requirement to enlist.
What's that supposed to mean?
Nothing. I just thought that seemed like a pretty lofty membership fee.
I know, right? It's more than my entire allowance.
Everything I love about that performance is translated here tenfold. Now instead of an eccentric maniac incompetent in what he does, he's an eccentric maniac with Bugs Bunny powers. And yeah, it's as scary and amazing as it sounds. He not only does a bang-up job matching Jim Carrey's level of energy, he's also allowed to do other voices and impressions, and it makes me so happy. Definitely one of my favorite individual performances of any Death Battle voice actor.
Penis metaphor!
I'm, starting to regret asking Pinkie to stick around.
Aw, don't be so dramatic, Wade. I may come from a kid show, but that doesn't mean I don't know about the Ursas and the Breezies. I have a son after all.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that. Thanks for ruining Weird Al for me, by the way.
No problem.
But the voice means nothing without the proper animation to accompany it. It should be noted that the team behind Bendy vs. Cuphead, still the best DBX we've ever gotten by a long shot, was supposed to animate this one, but got handed to Jordan Battle's team due to time constraints and the fact that his name is literally Battle. Has there ever been a more fitting name for a job? His team works in-house at Rooster Teeth, and they're best known for their work on shows like Camp Camp. As much as I love Bendy vs. Cuphead, I think this was ultimately for the best. After all, Deadpool and Mask's biggest selling point is that despite being cartoony, cartoony, they're not afraid to also get over-the-top violent and gory with it. And if you've ever seen any episode of Camp Camp, then you'll know exactly why they were perfect for the job.
Mascot.
Dude, you fucking killed it!
Oh.
And that didn't faze you? Not even a little?
Meh, that's deflated balloons compared to wielding the energy of an unhinged chaos entity. Twice if you count the comics.
Keyword if.
We're out of money!
We get some cool back and forth moments showing the differences in their power and healing, which then leads into the continuity gem scene. It's the first time this weapon has been used in any of Deadpool's episodes, and I don't think anyone could have predicted how they chose to handle it. We get shots of some of the most controversial episodes of Death Battle being fixed, as Deadpool puts it. Not only were the episodes chosen perfect for this moment, whether it be for poor research or not aging well, it once again goes to show that Death Battle isn't afraid to laugh at itself and acknowledge the fans. Luis did a great job with the drawings, coming up with cathartic alternate endings. I've been saying that about Rogue vs. 1D for years. Sucks he didn't have time to finish Gara vs. Toph, but at least now Yang vs. Tifa is not only fitting, but topical too.
Boo! Too soon!
Oh, whatever, you know she isn't dead. They'd have to rename the show Rube.
You're a rube.
What follows tends to be one of the biggest make-or-break moments of the whole episode. The budget gets used up to the point where all that's left is storyboards, and what follows is 35 seconds of live-action segments where the two try to raise the money needed for the animation. And you guys told me there wouldn't be a live-action episode this season. Now, I get it. This entire part kind of grinds the fight to a screeching halt, and is essentially a Nostalgia Critic sketch. But that's kind of the point. Remember, this is supposed to be shitpost the episode, so obviously there are going to be shitpost moments. As for the dated references, it makes sense in context because they're trying to make loads of money as quickly as possible, which nowadays requires hopping on the trends of the month. They were brief enough to not make it unwatchable, and it even gives this episode sort of a charming time capsule feel to it that I don't mind. As for the costumes looking like shit, what, were you expecting something on the level of Ismahawk? If it didn't look awful, then the budget problem would have felt non-existent. It's not like it's, hey, we've acknowledged that we look like shit, but we're gonna keep doing it anyway. Why would we have to improve or grow? That's dumb. But I'd like to issue a warning to Death Battle. Just like other shows that have done this kind of joke, you only get one. If you try to make yourself look bad on purpose for comedy again, I will call you out on it.
Oh, well they should be shaking in their boots. Breaking news. Noted internet whiner Nate What's-His-Name calls out a Rooster Teeth show. Like you'd be the first person to make a video about how they're going downhill.
Quiet, you!
I didn't know that was your last name, Nate. Are you per Old Ponish?
Also, including Peter B. Parker specifically was a nice touch. Clearly a role that Josh was born for. And I love how this line is a one-to-one reference to the mask while also changing the meaning of it entirely.
Can't make the scene if you don't have the green.
Uh-oh. Can't make the scene if you don't have the green.
And if the live-action part still annoys you, that's fine too. Though, let's be real, it could have lasted so much longer. And at the very least, we do get the animation back. After collecting the last of the money they needed, we thunder transition into a Western shootout of all things. We still haven't gotten McCree versus Aaron Black, but when we do, it's gonna have a hard time topping this scene. It's a genuinely intense moment, and serves as a great way of slowly drawing us back into the experience after about a minute of no action. Eventually, they draw. Only instead of guns, both of them have a continuity gem, to the bewilderment of Wade. The following exchange may be brief, but it's what I would consider the single most important moment of the episode and ties everything together.
What? Where'd you get that?
Oh, Jack! I'm already wearing it!
Remember when I said Mask is a perfect opponent for Deadpool? I'm sure there are other opponents out there, but I still stand by that statement when taking the context of this episode into account. Wiz and Boomstick work as a comedic duo since they're the classic straight man versus comic archetype, but in all the years of annoying and making life for them worse, Deadpool has always been a comic with no straight man, unless we're counting Wiz and Boomstick as a collective. Deathstroke didn't provide much of a challenge for him, and even when running into Pinkie, he was for the most part in control and just ended up having a new peer to wreck the fourth wall with. In this episode, he's continued to act as smug and overconfident as before, with a few moments of frustration here and there, but still having the last laugh. But then he met Mask. Let's have a rundown. It starts with Deadpool facing down Toon Force powers, the likes of which he hadn't seen. Then when he seems to get the upper hand, Mask just laughs it off and quips, which makes Wade visibly frustrated, followed by an epic sucker punch. Just because Mask is as carefree as Deadpool, Wade won't be lucking out with a truce like he did last time. Unlike Pinkie, murder and violence is kind of Mask's thing. After a solid beatdown, Wade tries using the continuity gem, where it looks like he's finally in control for the first time. But knowing Mask, he's likely just going along with it for fun. After the low-budget hijinks play out and our shootout concludes, we get this shot. This shot right here speaks volumes without needing to say a single word. Normally when people act like jerks, they don't even realize it.
Please, deep down, just tell me I'm a good person.
You have been so fucking rude to everyone.
Sometimes the most effective way to get them to stop is to show them how they're affecting others by holding a mirror up. Wiz and Boomstick, even if it was inadvertent, did just that. There's a SpongeBob episode called Breath of Fresh Squidward that tried to do something similar by reversing SpongeBob and Squidward's roles, except it failed miserably by demonizing Squidward for doing the exact same shit SpongeBob does in literally every episode, which defeats the purpose of the role reversal plot entirely. When done right, it's supposed to give the character on the receiving end a newfound understanding of themselves and how they've acted towards everyone.
Doesn't feel so good, does it?
Nope. No, it does not at all.
To put it simply, Deadpool was given a Deadpool. That's why this image is so important. He's finally realized what he's become, as well as what he could become if he keeps going down this path, which leads into the musical number, My Reality. At least, that's what I choose to call it. If you've watched Raccoon Bros' Tom and Jerry review, which you should totally check out, that guy's surprisingly insightful, you'll know that musical numbers generally occur at a character's emotional peak. This is exactly what Deadpool is experiencing now, something that wouldn't have happened if he had any other opponent than Mask, an overpowered, flanderized version of himself. Takahata isn't the greatest singer, but as we've seen in Perfect Cell's rendition of My Way, he freaking kills scenes like these with his raw emotion, and having it set to the score of one of Disney's most iconic songs was nothing short of brilliant.
Wait, you guys sang a song without me?
Speaking of music, I might as well say how I feel about Goodbye Chimichanga. No contest, it's the most dynamic track on the show with all its genre switches. It can be a little confusing listening to on its own, but it's super effective when paired with this episode. Let's go part by part. Mask's introduction, definitely my favorite. We've never gotten a track this jazzy, and there's no better way to introduce Mr. Bighead. I really wish there was a full version of this one. Messing with continuity does a good job of selling the weapon's absurd otherworldly power. I especially like how high the brass gets.
This is over.
Raising the money feels like something I might hear in a how-to basic video. Super upbeat and whimsical before plunging into insanity. The standoff. Once again, it's appropriate for this setting and has a great sense of atmosphere. And that percussion. I see you over there in the corner going off in them bongos. My Reality. Essentially royalty-free part of your world, but it's still nice to listen to.
I'll do this right. I'm not a joke. What even is a chimichanga?
But the track doesn't stop there. We haven't even gotten to the finale yet. Hey, are you okay, Wade? You haven't said anything in a while. Not that I'm complaining, but it's still concerning.
Huh? Sorry, I was thinking about stuff.
Anything you want to share?
No. Just do me a favor and get this next part over with.
Well, okay then. At this point, Wade has pretty much accepted his fate, and like a true badass decided he might as well go down swinging the old-fashioned way, commando style. The following sequence is something both fans and detractors can agree is pretty goddamn awesome. Deadpool and Mask duke it out with swords and chainsaws next to the backdrop of a beautiful thunderstorm, with everything set to the beat of Cuban Pete. The first part of Goodbye Chimichanga may be my favorite to listen to, but no other part was as well implemented as Cuban Pete. What better way to close out one of the most bonkers battles we've ever had? First, I love how most of the hits and gunshots align with the music. More fights need to do shit like this. Second, it expertly conveys how big the gap in stats is between these two, given its Mask's unofficial theme. And the way the fight itself plays out aligns with this idea. Mask takes all of Deadpool's attacks and says, "No, you," decimates him with his chainsaw dance, pulls out a freaking atomic bomb from his pocket for good measure. Notice how it's the fat lady as opposed to the fat man. After all, it's not over until she sings, and sings she does. Not before Wade gets in one last remark.
Fuck you.
Remember, you only get one F-bomb per season now, much like BoJack Horseman. And I'm so happy it was given to Wade, given how much he went through. This entire sequence is beautiful, well choreographed, funny as hell, and even justifies why the whole episode wasn't just a normal fight. Because if they had been fighting the whole time, it would have basically been just as long as this climax. Like they're about to say, Mask is so out of Deadpool's league that anything longer would have been unbelievable. Mask could have ended this duel at any time. He just wanted to have a little fun with his new indestructible plaything. Well, sort of indestructible at least. Definitely one of my favorite deaths with how over the top it is. analysis, and for the first time in the episode, Mask breaks the fourth wall with an ominous message.
Who's next?
Mask versus Freakazoid, anyone?
I'm more of a Beetlejuice guy myself.
I bet Discord would have a fun time.
I'd save him for that one-eyed Dorito.
Why don't they feel as awesome as they should?
Everything I've talked about up to this point is all fine and dandy, but none of it would have mattered if it hadn't been for the post-analysis. Not when it comes to proving who won, that was always kind of a no-brainer. Wade has had a chance to reflect on his mistakes, and now it's Wiz and Boomstick's turns. They did it. They finally got rid of that no-good regenerating degenerate, but at what cost? The first time watching this, I was half expecting them to miss Deadpool because he made their lives interesting, which is generally how these sorts of plots go. What we got instead was far more salient. When I was listing the types of Versus episodes we can get earlier, there was one significant type that I left out, and it's the worst kind of them all. I'm referring to the spite match. It's a battle created with the sole intent of killing another character simply because the creator hates them and knows they will lose, which is messed up on so many levels. I don't care if the character you're using is #1 on every top 10 list of worst characters on the internet, there's still someone out there who might like them. And obviously I'm referring to more realistic episodes. I highly doubt people would riot over the misrepresentation of Cool Cat. But honestly, who the heck knows? With over 7 billion people inhabiting the planet, it's not hard to believe that unironic fans for these kinds of characters do exist. Versus videos were never about the calculations, the flashy presentation, or even the fight scenes. It's about taking the opportunity to celebrate the characters we love, and spite matches spin in the face of this idea. Yes, Deadpool vs. Mask is a spite match technically, but A, the spite is clearly fictional and not coming from Ben, Chad, or anyone on the crew, and B, it shows exactly why these kinds of fights aren't fun to watch. Not to say Deadpool vs. Mask wasn't fun, obviously, but it still would have left a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouths without this scene. Sure, Deadpool had been intrusive, but he's Deadpool. It's sort of his thing. We expect more out of our hosts. Sure, people have requested Deadpool vs. Mask, but people also request Spider-Man vs. Darth Maul. It's their job to be impartial, and their pettiness got the better of them, giving them a rare moment of humility. Even Boomstick's pun is drenched in regret.
There's no way to mask what we've done.
But we still haven't gotten to the part that gets an emotional reaction out of me. That doesn't happen until the letter. Mask breaks through the screen to hand Boomstick an envelope, which is revealed to have been Deadpool's last written words before biting it. It's not played off for laughs, and there isn't an ounce of bitterness in Deadpool's words. In fact, he's thankful for their unintentional wake-up call. This scene serves as the other main criticism Deadpool vs. Mask throws at the internet. At some point down the line, Deadpool pretty much became a walking, talking meme, and the hard truth is that's kind of on us. All of the jokes, cosplaying, and admittedly the game from 2013 have warped our perception of who Wade is, who he really is. It makes me appreciate the live-action movies even more for understanding his vulnerable side and not making him a "lol, I'm so random" character. And the fact that this message is combined with a loving tribute to Deadpool's history on the show, the somber McLaughlin ripoff music, and Curtis's straight, heartfelt Canadian delivery is why I get the feels every time, and it's a perfect send-off to the most prolific character on Death Battle. Until he gets magic back with the continuity gem. It'd be easy to call this a cop-out ending, but considering how Deadpool got treated, I find the moment very satisfying. Him coming back after an emotional death is starting to become his new thing. It also scores him points for resourcefulness. He knew he couldn't win, so it makes sense he'd set up a get-out-of-jail-free card for himself. As for why Mask helped him out, Deadpool is one of the first people he's fought to actually put up a decent fight. He's too much fun not to keep around, and he already got his bloodlust fill after nuking him. Plus, it gives him a chance to troll Wiz and Boomstick in his own way without being a copy-paste of Deadpool's shtick. I look forward to seeing where they decide to go with Mask now that he's become the official Hermes of the show. With that, Mask pulls one last rickroll by declaring himself the winner, he and Deadpool have the last laugh together, and that's the episode.
That's it! I can't take anymore! You have had nothing but nice things to say about this episode. If you love it so much, why didn't you so much as give it the time of day earlier?
I don't like this, Wade. I can tell when someone's hiding something. Believe me, I've had experience. And I can pinky promise you that Nate is keeping secrets.
Spill it! Why didn't you give this episode a score last time?
You guys, The reason I didn't give it a score is because Deadpool vs. Mask is my favorite episode.
Aha! I knew it! It took you wait. Favorite? You're talking like favorite of the season, right?
No, I mean ever.
Of all time?
You gonna say anything, or?
You idiot.
That's not the reaction I expected.
Unbelievable! After everything I went through, I didn't even have to convince you at all. God, the chloroform I wasted on you! That stuff doesn't come cheap, you know. Why didn't you say anything? And don't you spew that, "Oh, I was afraid my audience would be mad" excuse.
Of course not. Unlike some reviewers, I actually respect my audience enough to know they won't freak out from a hot take. I didn't say anything because if your ego was any more inflated, the only thing that could bring you back to Earth would be a dart flung at your face. Kinda like the one you shot me with.
What's your damage, dude?
What's my damage? You are! You broke into my house, derailed my videos, drugged and kidnapped me, and then I reiterate that you shot me!
Oh, boo friggin' who! You act like you're the first person to ever be kidnapped. At least you didn't have every one of your atoms disintegrated at once.
As if you haven't already died like 100 times already.
Have you ever died?
I hate you!
I swear, you always
do this kind of thing, Wade. I'll admit it was charming at first, but just like Fall Guys, it got old real quick. Do you have any idea how upset Raccoon Bro will be with me missing my deadline again? If I have to explain to another YouTube commenter, it'll be out when it's out one more time. I'm going to have a burning of cactuses out of my...
Were there any tornado warnings scheduled for today?
Yeah! What is that thing?
Smokin'!
He found me! Nate, shield me with your forehead!
Wait, I thought you said you had him on speed dial. You lied, didn't you?
No.
You lied just now, didn't you?
Yes.
Wade didn't call Mask here. I did.
Audible gasp!
I can't stand seeing the two of you fight! If you guys keep fighting like this, you're gonna blow up in a super duper enormously huge wreck the internet mondo explosion! And I knew if you two were gonna listen to anyone, it'd be Mask!
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Miss P. That's right, gentlemen. Today, I will be your tour guide through this crazy little thing we call life. And sometimes in life, we have disagreements. And beef! I am simply here to provide the squash.
How will we squash this beef?
By going on a spirit journey. I have spent the last 6 months designing this quest from the ground up with you two schmucks in mind. It will be a perilous one, filled with many trials and general inconveniences. We will journey to the farthest reaches of the land, places no human or fictional character could even fathom. From there, we will climb the highest peaks and become one with our astral selves, leaving behind these mortal coils for new, luminous bodies beyond space. It is only then will time have no meaning. Everything that ever was and ever will be will occur at the same time, providing new perspective and understanding for our fellow men. Never thought possible.
Yeah, I'm not editing all that.
Fair enough. Let's just cut right to the chase. DP, do you really hate Nate?
No, not really. I just wish he wasn't so immediately dismissive of me like the rest of the internet. It's bad enough getting turned to ashes.
Good times.
But even some of my own fans can't stand the sight of me. Is it so much to ask just wanting to be included in a conversation, or even being proud of my previous accomplishments?
And Nate, do you really hate Wade?
I guess not. I even relate to you in a way. I want to be taken somewhat seriously as a producer, and it's kind of hard when unkillable jokers and colorful ponies constantly interrupt me. All of you guys will be remembered forever. I guess I just wanted to be remembered too, but by my own merits.
Do you guys have anything else you'd like to say?
I'm sorry about kidnapping you. I probably could have just DM'd you.
And I'm sorry for snapping you away with a knockoff Infinity Gauntlet. That was unprofessional of me.
Water under the bridge, buddy.
And if you'd like to join me for future videos, you're welcome to. Just maybe knock next time.
Not my usual style, but I can give it a try.
Best therapy session ever! Awesome job, Mask!
My work here is done. Now, if you all will excuse me, I've got to go make a cameo in Space Jam 2. Sayonara!
Somebody stop him!
It's no use. Warner Bros. Is gonna milk as many franchises as they can for that movie. Maybe I don't have it as bad as I thought.
Hey, Nate! Why don't you hit us with the big finish?
Don't mind if I do. I totally get why you might not like this episode. The Deadpool overexposure, the outdated references, the amount of continuity, the disjointed fight, even the results which I've heard some people deem unfair to an extent, those are all reasonable issues to have, and I never came here to convince you otherwise. I just hope I was able to at least give you all an understanding of my perspective. Deadpool vs. Mask may have been shitpost of the episode, but just because something's a shitpost, that doesn't mean it's automatically bad. Heck, some of my favorite YouTube videos and TV episodes can technically be deemed shitposts. The build up to this episode, while intrusive, was expertly done and well thought out. The banter between Wiz, Boomstick, and Deadpool is memorable and elevated by the newly implemented animations. The animation itself is stunning, capturing both fighters' zany fighting styles and mannerisms in a way that I can't see possibly replicated in sprites or 3D. The voice acting is up there with some of the best performances we've gotten, with fantastic comedic timing and heavy moments. But what makes Deadpool vs. Mask so special to me is that this is one of the few episodes of the show where we get genuine character development, and the criticisms of respecting fiction and death of the author strike a chord with me. I think if you go into this one with the attitude of knowing that it's not meant to be a conventional fight and has more to say than just who would win, you're gonna have a much easier time enjoying, or at least forgiving this one. Combine all that with my love for the golden age era of cartoons, and what you get is my favorite episode of Death Battle. Feels good to finally get that one off my chest.
So Nate, what are you gonna talk about next time? Ew, what is that smell?
Not sure, but if I were a betting man, I'd say gas.
Can someone please untie me now?